Welcome everyone to this Friday's Tech and Tell. I'm Anne-Marie Molinari Sanders, and I'm joined today by my co-host Paula Bauer. And the name of this webinar today is Transform a Learning Environment Using Nearpod. Our presenter is Tiffany Lee. This is Tiffany Lee. She's a PD coordinator and a distance learning lead for Region 9 Education Service Center. Tiffany Lee has worked for Region 9 for 14 years with experience as a high school equivalency, English as a second language, and citizenship instructor. And she considers herself a resource media driver. I love that. Currently, Miss Lee is the Region 9 Distance Learning Lead and PD Coordinator. Tiffany is also an independent contract trainer for Train PD at TCall, and she is one of our Standards 3.0 certified trainers. On a special note, everybody, I consider myself a Texan, but 10 years ago when I moved to Texas, there were several people that were instrumental in helping me feel like a Texan and made me feel at home, especially coming from California. This beautiful lady you see on the screen was one of them. She was always there to help me at the state office when I was managing distance learning, and I will never forget it. She is a true talent. Everybody, please welcome Tiffany Lee. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I wanted to welcome you to the Transform a Learning Environment with Nearpod. So, how do you make your adult education classroom interactive? Okay, Maria says, always trying to apply interactive apps to my online class. Quizzes, yes, Common Lit, breakout rooms, thank you. Student response and interaction. Oh, I love scavenger hunts. Yes, I love scavenger hunts. Pair work, group work. Thank you. So here we go. So we're gonna learn about Nearpod, and we're gonna learn about what it can do. So Nearpod is an interactive classroom tool to engage students by adding interactive activities to lessons like polls, collaboration boards, and game-based quizzes. Students can interact and submit responses through any mobile device or also a laptop or desktop. So either way, there's an app that you can download on a mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a cell phone, or you could use it on a laptop or a desktop. Okay, but the key is that it's interactive and formative. So the free version of Nearpod, there's two types of versions. There's the free version, and there's also the version where you can pay for a subscription where you get several other bings and all that stuff, bells and whistles on there. But I use the free version. And the free version, the storage, you could only have about 100 megabytes of storage. So if you have one lesson with a lot of media, that'll eat up your storage. Okay, so just keywords about the storage. You could also upload existing Google Slides or PowerPoints. You can put videos or also your files too. Now, Nearpod, you can have at least 40 students in per session. It does have engaging digital instruction, like you can deliver the Nearpod live, you can do it student-paced, or you can do it in front of a class. There's also teacher dashboards there's a teacher dashboard with real-time insights like reports. You can share the lesson with a code or a link. You can share it in Google Classroom, or if you have Microsoft Teams, you can do it that way. After your session is complete, it provides reports that gives you to post-session reports that shows you how much activity the students did in that lesson. There's also a live whiteboard, and you can launch the lesson through Zoom. The community support that it offers is that Nearpod has a support resources for teachers. So it has teacher resources that includes webinars, how-to videos, and then also professional development on their teacher resource page. Now you know a little bit about Nearpod, so let's learn what Nearpod can do. Okay, so for a new user of Nearpod, it set my classroom routines. It built my community in the classroom, and then I could adapt my instruction, and then it kept my students engaged. So this is important to me as a teacher, but I'm just sharing what my experience is with Nearpod. And the first thing is about routines. Routines are great. I love routines. So I love integrating technology in a lesson plan. So if you're like me in those categories, Nearpod can do that for you. So advice, though, is to do an introduction to a new piece of technology when you're implementing something new, especially something like this in the classroom, okay? So that first lesson, just make it simple that you're trying to introduce them of how to do it, okay? And then the other thing about class schedule is that during the Teaching Skills That Matter project, I subbed for one of our ESL teachers, and she used Nearpod. So I wanted to continue using that technology. I had my whole class remote but I also use a Nearpod, and I was able to have the whole lesson in Nearpod, or I would have at least about 30 minutes of that 2-hour class in Nearpod for its applicable practice to the lesson. So remember, the lesson is that I do, then we do, and then they do, okay? So remember that. And here's an example of that routine is that when I used that TSTM civics lesson, the First Amendment, I expanded that lesson into a whole unit outline for government. And then I used resources like CrowdEd Learning's work with reading skills for today's adults, and then the civics resources on the USCIS website. And what I did is when I developed everything, I just put it all into Nearpod and we just rolled with it. So there were some parts where I used Google Slides because I wanted to teach them digital literacy skills about uploading a picture onto a slide, but the majority of the lessons that were in this unit were in the Nearpod. So Nearpod can also help you build that community in the classroom. So SEL, or social emotional learning, can help all young people and adults thrive personally and academically, develop and maintain positive relationships, become lifelong learners, and contribute to a more caring, just world. So you can build a community by using the activities like the collaborative board, which is similar to Padlet, if you're used to Padlet. It's a collaborative board where they can post a post-it note of text. You can post an image onto that collaborative board. You could use icebreakers as mini lessons, or an example might be the gratitude board for students to post whatever they are thankful for and what makes them smile each day on a collaborative board. Okay, so the next is adapt. Have you ever needed to adapt during your instruction? So for example, if you're having your students complete a warm-up review activity to solve one-step equations and they're not sure of one of the questions, you can use that online whiteboard to review those steps to solve, or you can use one of the short reviews in the activity library. And then Nearpod can also do engagement. Nearpod keeps your student engaged. So it allows teachers to create lessons from scratch or use the existing library of more than 7,500 Nearpod activities. I think it's up to 15,000 lessons and videos across grade levels, but you can use those grade levels of K through 12 for the adult atmosphere. And then it it gets up and running quickly. The system also allows you to pull the videos like from YouTube for easy integration with like a quiz. So it's similar to the Edpuzzle, and it does have teacher reports. Okay. So here we are, the questions.
Okay. Donnie had a great question. She asked, does the free version provide reports or just the paid version?
Okay, so the free version of Nearpod shows you reports of activities that you did with the lesson. It shows each student's activities, whether they are active or they participated in the lesson throughout the lesson. And then it does with each activity that you completed on a lesson.
We did also have another question from Richard, and he asks, can you sync with Google Classroom?
You cannot sync with Google Classroom, but you can share the link from that lesson into Google Classroom. So if you want the students to do it as a student paste, you can do the lesson, you can share the link from the lesson and embed it into the Google Classroom.
Thank you, Tiffany. And all right, I think we can keep going.
Awesome. Okay. So let's have some fun. Let's learn about Nearpod. So how you create an account is you go to nearpod.com. When you get there to nearpod.com, up in the top corner, there's a button that says sign up for free. Or if you already have an account, you can click login. Or what I want you to do is sign up as a teacher. In the middle of the screen, there should be three color squares. There's like a red color that's students, teachers is login, sign up for free or login. And then there's another color that's administrators, which is blue. And that's for like quotes. The red one that says students, that's where your students would join. If you're in a classroom and you have Nearpod lesson on the screen, and your students are in the classroom that has computers, they can go to nearpod.com and you just give them the code and they can join the code, join the lesson, and enter the code there. And then they would start with the lesson itself. The teachers, you can sign up free and then just follow the instructions on how to sign up. You would choose teacher, and then you can sign up either with your Google or if you have Office 365, you can sign up for that, or you can fill out the information of first, last name, school, password, and such. Okay. I've already have an account, so I'm going to log in, and then I use my Google account. So I'm going to click sign in with Google. So now you're at your dashboard, and what you see with your dashboard on the left-hand side, you see you can join a lesson. There are under my materials, you have my lessons where that dashboard, you see all of your Nearpods that you've made. There's also someone asked about reports. This is your reports. When you click reports, you'll see all the reports after your session has been done. They do have a Nearpod library where you can pick out all kinds of lessons from their Nearpod activity library. There's videos and activities and such. There's everything. You can make folders and keep them organized. I'm like a real organized person. You can do, when you start creating one, you can click the blue button where it says create. That's next to the button where it says folder, and you can click lesson, video, or activity, or you can create your lessons in Google Slide. I always click lesson because I want to make a lesson that includes content, media, and activities all in one. If you do make it organized, you can have folders, and you can make your folders just like I did. I have a folder for ESL, I have one for HSE. I have one that says Nearpod orientation. If you search in the Nearpod library, you can search for Nearpod orientation, and they have a small Nearpod orientation where you could go through those lessons of how to do those activities. Up in the top right-hand corner, you see a create with a down caret. And when you do that, you can start your lesson that way. You can click activities if you want to just do a quick activity if you're doing remote. There's a quick launch button where you can quick launch open-ended questions, collaborative board. There's also a timer. And then if you click your picture, or I don't know if you have a picture, you can upload a picture to your profile page. It shows that you're on a free plan. It shows how much I've already taken up in the storage and how much storage you needed. There's also lesson settings to get familiar with, notification, and then your logout button. So that is basically your dashboard for Nearpod. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth from the PowerPoint to Nearpod. Okay, so what I want you to have is make sure you have a separate window with your Nearpod opened, and then make sure you see the Zoom window with the PowerPoint. Because the next thing that we are going to learn is what can your lessons contain. So your lessons can contain our content and activities. And the difference between them is content can push media to your students through the lesson, and activities allow you to collect the responses in real time. And then at the end of the lesson, you could look at the post-session report to see if they've been interactive. Okay, so what we will do is that I will show you at least 3 examples of content and then move to Nearpod to show you how to build it in your lesson. And then I'll show you another 3 and then build those. And then we'll do the same for the activity side too. Okay, so let's talk about Nearpod lessons of content. So here are some of the content that you can see in a Nearpod lesson. Okay, so content is like video, slide, web content. You can take a virtual reality field trip. I liked that one. You can put up a PDF view. You can upload a PDF. It has audio, slideshow. You can show a video of the BBC. But the difference between the paid version and the free version is one thing, is that this is the picture that you'll see, but the difference is that in the free version, for example, I do not have access to one of the items called vocabulary videos. Okay. And only the paid version with your school or your district has that. So that is the difference between the paid version and the free version for content features. The first feature of content is the interactive. So Nearpod is great for making YouTube videos interactive. So simply select the one you want and then add assessment questions at certain points along the way. So all students need to do is watch and select the correct answer as they watch. So it's similar to Edpuzzle if you're familiar with that. Ensuring that they pay attention and allowing you to see how much they know and the areas that need attention. So on the content slide, this is just content. You can share academic content information, and you can share text, shapes, images, or GIFs, and the text can be read aloud with the Microsoft Immersive Reader, and then the audio can be as additional support resource. And then information with a variety of media options can be shared. So you can have that on your content slide. If you decide you want to put web content, anything with a URL will work. You just copy and paste that web address, that URL address, and you can provide access to web-based articles. You can share information with your Google Drive or OneDrive. What it will do is that the exact URL will open and students can navigate the site independently. And then when it's time to advance, for the teacher to advance, the devices will sync together and the students will continue in the Nearpod lesson. So we're at the point of adding our content. So we're going to add a video content, a content slide, and a web content. Okay. So we're back into our Nearpod. So how we create a lesson is that we go to the Create button in your dashboard and click Lesson. And you can title your lesson if you'd like. So for this activity, I decided that we need to make a lesson that's called laughter, because we all need to have laughter in our lives. And in order to add the content and activities is that you just click this plus button on this slide to add, and you see where the content features, these are all the features that are listed. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the video feature. And my lesson for y'all is going to be about laughter. So anything about laughter, okay? And I found a TED Talk, which was on YouTube, that was about laughter. So I am going to find that copy link address, paste it in the search box. And here is that video. Now it does say review the video before sharing it with your class. The safe search features were not applied because you entered a web address, but just review the video before you share it to your class. And then at the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to click save. So what it'll do is it will save in my lesson. Now, if I wanted to add an activity to it, like a question, I can click add activity at the bottom, and I can click open-ended question, or I can choose a multiple question. So as a teacher, when you're building your lesson, make sure you listen to the video, and then at each part of the video where you wanted to ask the question, that's where you can add the activity. The other thing is that you can trim the video. This is like a 17, 18-minute video. If you click trim, you're able to trim that down. So say I just want to do at least about, let me make sure I get the part. Let's see. No, okay, this is where I want it. I want to do like a 4-minute video. Okay, and then I go over to the side and I click trim. And it'll say the activities in video and the trimmed area will not be deleted. You can come back here at any time to recover them. So now I have a 4-minute video where I can also add the activities. And when you add your activities, what you do is you just click save, and it'll save that video in your lesson. And it's called Why We Laugh by Sophie Scott from the TED Talk. The next item I want to do for content feature is the content. I want to do a content slide, which it's also just called slide. Okay. The difference between slide and slideshow is that you can add, students can scroll through the slides on this, but I just want to add one slide. I'm going to click that content, and this is what it looks like. Okay. You can have a theme over here on the side. Let's do a black and a gold here. And then you can upload a file, or you can add text, video, image, or a GIF. Okay. But I just want to add a question. So our laughter question for today. And then I want to click text, and here's the text. What are the 3 theories of humor? So that is my question. Now on your text, you can make your text small or normal, large, or huge. You can alignment of left, right, or in the middle. There's also bullets. You can do 1, 2, or 3, or if you think you want to trash everything and start over, you can click that little delete button. Okay. And that's how you add your text. But you could also put a background, put a background image. You can do a different layout. You could add audio, and you could also preview the slide. And I'm just going to save and exit for my content slide. So now I have a content slide. The third one that we're going to add is our web content. Okay. So I click the add button, then I click web content in the content features, and then it asks me enter the website URL that students will see. Okay. So I'm going to add a web content of something that says how laughter works from a website for science. It says how stuff works. Okay. And I want students to read for that website. So if you ever want to preview, you could always click preview, and then you could see what a student would see of a student preview. And then you see the video, you have the content slide, and then now students, what they do is just click here to open the page on theirs. So next is we're going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to learn about 3 other content features. And then we'll go back to our Nearpod and we'll paste them in. The next one is you can add a content feature called Nearpod 3D and PHET interactive simulation, which is very interesting. So Nearpod 3D adds a new dimension to digital learning that encourages students to participate in lessons in a visual and hands-on engaging way to make more meaningful learning. Okay, students, they're able to zoom in and out on an image, and they're able to rotate it 360 degrees for a perspective. So it's pretty neato. I liked it. And then the other thing is the content feature is called a PHET interactive simulations. So students can explore content independently on their device. It provides a hands-on way for students to explore science and math topics. By embedding one of the simulations into Nearpod, each student will have a unique experience on their own device, and you can check for understanding with Nearpod's formative assessment features, and you can provide easy to access experience for your students. So the students can explore it on their device, and the teachers are able to see the simulations on their device in live participation mode of the students of how are they working through it. And then the other content feature that I liked is called a VR field trip, virtual reality field trip. It allows you to take your students anywhere in the world without leaving your seat. And Nearpod has a library of hundreds of thousands of VR images that you can add to your lesson. Best of all, students don't need a headset to join a lesson. The VR works on any device. So that has thousands of images, and they're able to explore 360 image of the location that you've selected for that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our Nearpod lesson that we're building, and we're going to add these interactive features. So the first one is the Nearpod 3D. I'm going to click my plus button, and then I'm going to go into Nearpod 3D, select that. And for this one, dealing with laughter, I think I put full skeleton. So I'm going to choose the Nearpod 3D of the full body. I want the students to discover the whole full body. So these are the science activities, but if you look, this is like a plant cell, there's respiratory systems, there's animal cells, but this is like staff picks, but they have other places. Like if you want to do human body, there's environments, there's some ancient times that they can discover. You can add these all into your lessons, but staff picks, I do full body. Okay, because I want them to discover where the laughter is with those lungs and underneath that rib cage. Okay, so we're going to click full body, and then we're going to click done, and then it will add it to our lesson. You can turn it in different directions, and I believe you can zoom in and you can zoom out. And then sometimes when adding, you have to be very patient in order for it to add in the Nearpod lesson. If we want to preview, let me show you that part. So we got our web content. And here it is. Here's the human body, and you can use your mouse. So you can go back and forth. It's like a 360-degree turn. And I believe if you're on a tablet, you're able to zoom in and zoom out. The next thing we're going to add is our PHET lesson. So that's simulation. We're going to do that simulation, interact with math and science. And I want to find balance chemical equations. I believe somewhere in the science lessons or the science test of the GED that students have to learn how to balance chemical equations. So I'm going to click that lesson, that simulation. You can click done. If you want to preview it, you could actually click preview and it will show you the simulations. If you want to balance, so I'm going to choose that lesson of balancing chemical equations. The next thing I'm going to add is our virtual reality. So I'm going to go here that says Nearpod VR field trip. You can see there are several destinations that are just popped up by Powered 360 Cities. You could also search for the destination. I did the virtual reality of the wall of mirrors at the Versailles. And in the virtual reality, you could see, this is they call it the wall of mirrors. And if you don't know about this place called the Wall of Mirrors at Versailles, this is where they signed the Treaty of Versailles way back in the day. So this is pretty cool that they could go and see what history is without leaving their seat. And then I'm going to click done. And then that field trip is listed in there. So the next is slideshow. This is another feature. It's called slideshow. So with the slideshow feature, teachers can create a mini slideshow within one slide of a lesson that is student controlled. So this is a great way to break up the material that's presented without students progressing forward through a lesson or to let students work at their own pace. And as you can see by this picture, they added 5 slides and you can do a slideshow. So we're going to do that. And then another thing is there is a PDF. If you want to include a PDF as a complete document, you can add that as an individual slide, depending on what you want your students to experience. And this is a picture of the sample of a PDF. So students can arrive at this slide with the document. They're able to scroll through the PDF on their own device, or that if you have it by individual, you can do individual slides. And then the last feature is the audio feature, that you can add audio files as an individual slide during the Nearpod lesson. You could also add reference media to support the activities or add audio to content and image slides. So all they do is they select the play button and then the audio will play. So how about we just add one of those? I'm going to do the PDF of the content feature, okay? So I am going to click PDF viewer, and then I'm going to just upload a PDF. So I'm going to add a supplement for students. So are there any questions?
Can you set it so you can always see both the teacher and the student view?
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the teacher could use a split screen on a large monitor.
Yes. Well, yeah, you can do the split screen when you present. For example, I'm just going to save and exit. And then I don't know whether it'll show the teacher side of it, of how you can see what the students see in there. But I believe later you are able to go through the lesson. But yes, you'll see the teacher side, and then there's a button in the top right-hand corner that'll say, it has like a little S. And when you click the S, it pops out another window where you can see the student side of what the students see. It is helpful if you have two screens, so you can have one screen for your student view and one screen for your teacher reports view. Or you can have another device and you can ask that device and add that to the Nearpod. Just put Nearpod on the device and just add it into the lesson itself. What is it? I'm going to join the Nearpod lesson. So activities allow you to collect the responses, remember, from your students that can be reflected in your lesson's post-session report. So here are some of those activities, and we're just going to do a few because of time's sake. But for those activities, there's several. You can do a Flipgrid, there's a quiz, there's matching pairs, there's a poll, there's a draw it, a collaborative board, there's whole 9 yards that you could use. And of course, when you click that activity feature, you won't see this one called drag and drop. This is for the ones that's on the paid version, but you should see the rest of the activity features except for the drag and drop. Okay. So the first one that I love is the draw it. So when students reach a draw it in the Nearpod lesson, they will select a pencil, a highlighter, text box, images, eraser from the draw it toolbar on the bottom and respond to the question that's being asked. The ability to draw directly on the slides is a useful way to give students freedom to interact, either adding their own images or perhaps drawing on a map or annotating on a diagram. So as a teacher, you can view the progress in real time and for the entire class. And the feature works for when students and teachers are using the Nearpod in a web browser. Otherwise, you will see results when the students submit it. So what this means is you can see this picture that's on the screen is that the yellow banner will appear as students are in progress. A green banner will appear when the students submit the assignment as completed. And student work can be previewed and shared out in the student devices. Okay, so that is a sample of the draw it, and we'll do that one. Another favorite of mine is the interactive collaborative board. When students arrive at a collaborative board during the lesson, they will be able to post text or images in a response to your prompt. So they'll see other students' responses and be able to like responses that resonate with them by clicking the heart in the bottom corner for each of the posts. So collaborative boards allow students to contribute multiple perspectives that can be useful both in the classroom and then also remotely. And then in student-led mode, they can go at their own pace, but while in teacher-paced mode, you can take time to pause and reflect or expand on the post on points that made in the live version. The other feature I like for activities is fill in the blanks. It's a formative assessment activity, and it allows students to complete a passage and populate blanks with words. So students can get instant feedback, so they'll know what words or concepts they need more practice with. So when students reach a fill in the blank activity in the lesson, they will see a passage with multiple missing words in a word bank, and they will move to the correct words into the correct location and receive a score when it's complete. So as the teacher, you can view progress in real time for the entire class and view the correct answers in the fill in the blanks passage. Now I'm going to click my edit button to edit my presentation so I can add some of those activities for Nearpod. Okay, so I'm going to click add content and activities. I'm going to click my activities feature. And the first feature I want to do is I want to draw it. Now you see, here's the draw it. You can explore the library over here on the right, pick one over here, but I want to do something of my own, okay, as a teacher. I want draw someone laughing. Okay, so I added the question I can upload a background image if you want to add a background image if you want, but I do not want that. And I'm going to click save. So now when you get to that activity of draw it, it'll ask you to draw someone laughing. Okay. The next activity is the collaborative board. So I'm going to click add content activities, go to my activities feature, and then find collaborative board. And you can choose a style of your collaborative board. You can enter the topic, okay? And then add a description. So I want them to find a clean meme joke and post it to our laughter board. And then what I'll do is I'll click save and it'll save that collaborative board. But I want that collaborative board, actually, I've thought about it, and I want that collaborative board at the beginning of the lesson. So you are able to select it, and then you're able to just click and drag it to where you want for it to fit. So when the student logs in, they'll see that collaborative board and they'll find a joke and post it about laughter on that board. Then we'll learn about laughter. Then we'll ask the questions, okay? And then the next activity, we want to do fill in the blanks. So now you can select your text if you want. Just start typing. You'll click next when done, and then now it'll say click on the words on the right to add the word to the word bank. So here I want to click on use to fill in the blank, and I want to click on results. And maybe research, okay? And when. So when a student goes to this fill in the blank, what they do is they just click on the word and then drag it in. So are there any questions?
Can a teacher share a lesson they have developed with another teacher on Nearpod, such as how you can share with a live binder?
You can see on my dashboard here that this is my lesson for laughter. Up here in the top right hand corner, there's 3 little dots, and you can see that there is a share with teachers. There's a duplicate, add to folder, export to PDF, there's reports, or you can delete it. If I wanted to share it with a teacher, you can preview the link. There's an editable link. You can just copy and paste that link and then it'll share it with them. So the reports are actually aligned with the lesson itself. So if you have multiple classes and you want to use the same lesson, I recommend that you make a copy of that lesson, but title it a different title, like GED class number 1, GED class number 2. So that way your reports will be with that class. But if I have just one lesson and I continue with all of my students, you'll just have one report per class. So if I want you to, we're going to do a live participation. If I do a live participation, then the students, which are y'all, what you do is you go to joinnearpod.com on the web browser or in the app, and then you just type in this code, RZFS9, and it goes straight to the lesson itself. So as a student, you just put that code right there and click join. So on the teacher side, you can hide the students' names or you can show the students' names. And on the left and the bottom, you see all these little people. I have 2 people. So, I have a lot of people. I've got 8 right now for those who want to join. So it's going to ask me as a teacher on my side, would you like to approve student comments before they post it? So I trust everybody in here. So I'm going to click no. And on the teacher side, you can see This code stays in the top left-hand corner for the teacher side. The teacher can also open up a whiteboard if you want to adapt the lesson, or you could also add the activity within it. And I believe someone asked about, you can still see the student side, and you can. There's the top left-hand, you can switch to the student view. The teacher is going to proceed to the next lesson or the next activity. And then that's the video. The teacher can play the video on the teacher's device, and questions appear on the student's device, or the students can play and watch the video and answer questions. And so I'm going to play it. This is the first 4 minutes of our video called Laughter.
Hi, I'm going to talk to you today about laughter. And I just want to start by thinking about the first time I can ever remember noticing laughter. This is when I was a little girl. I would have been about 6. And I came across my parents doing something unusual, where they were laughing. They were laughing very, very hard. They were lying on the floor laughing. They were screaming with laughter. I did not know what they were laughing at, but I wanted in. I wanted to be part of that. And I kind of sat around at the edge going, hoo-hoo. Now, incidentally, what they were laughing at was a song which people used to sing, which was based around signs in toilets on trains telling you what you could and could not do in toilets on trains. And the thing you have to remember about the English is, of course, we do have an immensely sophisticated sense of humour.
Now, there was a question that it did ask if you want the teacher to play it, or do you want the students to see it on their side. If you click the student side, then they are able to play it and view it and see it. Okay, so in this content slide, this is laughter. So I went to the next slide. So on your side as a student, you should see the content slide. Laughter. What are the 3 theories of humor? And that is the question I wanted to ask students. And what they would do is do research on that. And you should see web-based content, and it might ask you, click here, and it will take you to that website. That way the students can go ahead and research. So the next screen or the next activity, you should have your interactive simulation. But you can see on the teacher side that all of your students did the activity and they've all submitted the activity. Okay. And here we go with fill in the blanks. So on the fill in the blank, on the report side, you could see how they're doing.
From a teacher perspective, can you see which students are participating?
Well, it depends on which activity that you're using. Like the drawing activity, I saw 12 people doing it, but not another person. So you could see if you showed the students' names, you could see who is doing the activity and who is not. And then on the report at the end, you could see the report session where who did not do that activity, who did not participate. Just to let you know that Nearpod does have resources. They have live webinars. You can get started videos. You can set up your Nearpod activities like in HyperDocs, remember. There is a webinar in the PD portal about HyperDocs Part 1. I used a lot of reading skills for today as adults, and I did some of this lesson came from Louisiana, I believe's session. So thank you for participating. I hope you enjoyed Nearpod.
Tiffany, thank you so much.